Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the iProv vlog. I am Jordan Smith, VP of Sales and Marketing with iProv. As always, joined by my great, smart, intelligent, successful co-host, Patrick Laughlin, COO of iProv. What up, Pat? How are you?
What up, Joe? How are you today?
I'm doing good. We are slowly inching our way out of summer, which I know most people think I'm crazy, but I'm very happy about. You can tell by all the different shades of plaid, I'm very much a fall person as opposed to a summer guy.
Yeah, it's time to get the lumberjack clothes out, Joe.
Yeah, get sweaters and cardigans. I'm ready. Hey, speaking of that, the topic today, we're going to talk a little bit about don't react, but instead respond. And that might seem like an odd statement, but we talked about this book quite a bit, which is The Go-Giver, and they've got a little story about this, and they talk about this a little bit. So we want to explain that methodology because we use a lot in our shop. Again, that methodology of don't react, but instead take a step back and respond.
Well, and actually it's The Go-Giver Leader, which is a follow-up, but it's been one of my favorite books that I've read during quarantine. And a lot of it is about just how you build your people, right? Mm-hmm. And how you interact with them, how you get the most out of them. It talks a whole lot about creating influence for yourself and giving power in order to giving power in order to get power back. And there's this really great interaction in the book where sort of the mentor for the main character has a run-in with somebody in a restaurant, and she calmly diffuses the situation, and the main character is just completely in awe of how she did it. And so she sort of explained it to him, and she says, the more you yield, the more power you have, because the substance of influence is pull, and not push. And that this idea of responding instead of reacting is really just tact. And tact is the language of strength. If you can take a minute, think for a second about what is actually going on in the interaction that you're having before you just sort of make a snap reaction, and you can respond calmly, you can maintain a whole lot of power and really use your influence as opposed to using your anger to get what you want. I mean, you're in sales, Joe. I mean, you know more about influence than anybody.
Well, we talk about it all the time, which is you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond to it, right? We can only control our actions. So I like that thought process of no matter what the situation, just kind of, and it's difficult sometimes, I get it, but taking a step back and figuring out, all right, what is the best, most productive way to respond to this, Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't be direct. It doesn't mean that sometimes an angry response isn't warranted. It just means being thoughtful about what type of response you want to put out there, right?
Yeah, and in fact, in the book, it talks about directness. It says sometimes directness is called for, but thoughtlessness is never called for. And the other side of that too is whether you react or respond, it tends to foster the same behavior in the other person. So if I react angrily at something that I hear, it's immediately going to put the other person on the defensive, and they're going to go to anger. Whereas if I sort of absorb it and I respond thoughtfully, it tends to get them thinking more being more thoughtful as well, which in turn is what you really get. And I mean, how many times have you or I been in the middle of something stressful and just it got the better of you, and you regretted it instantly, and you had to go walk it back 5 minutes later? And if you'd just taken 5 seconds when it happened, you could have prevented a whole lot of ill will and apologies and everything else. And so I think that remembering to respond and not just react is really, really important on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before also, but being intentional about what you want out of that, right? Sometimes we just want to react because it's, hey, we've got this thing in us and we got to get it out. Well, if you take that second, you can really think about, all right, well, what's my intent with the response? You know, is it, do I need to just get this out of my head or my chest for my benefit? Is it for their benefit? Is it, you know, do we need to probe deeper? But just taking a step back and taking a second and figuring out, all right, not only how you're going to respond, but what are the intentions of your response? What type of emotion or response do you want to elicit from that other individual?
Well, I think that's the point. I think is what is the intended response you want back? Because you know, this is from the book too. Expecting someone to be helpful doesn't change them; it changes you, and that in turn is what changes them. So, you know, sort of going into any interaction and saying, I want a peaceful resolution. I want helpfulness, and being intentional about that. Putting yourself in that mindset is what will get you the result that you want.
I love that. And that's the difference, everybody, between reacting and responding. So, you know, be intentional. As always, just be intentional, and respond. Take a beat back. We'd love to hear from you guys. What kind of tactics you use whenever you're in a situation like that, to kind of, as a leader, to take a beat and figure out what the proper response is. I know some people count in their heads, some people go through a quick checklist. I'd love to know what your process is to figure out what your next step is or what your response is, so that you just don't hop off the handle and react to something.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Pat, I love that. Listen, like, comment, share, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, leave that comment, and let us know what type of content you would like to see from us. And as always, we appreciate it. If we've earned it, give us a like. Peace, peeps.